I'd like to welcome to the stage the team from the Harrington Agency, Ryan McGuire and Jessica Harrington.
So we were talking this morning about deliverability and what it takes to have good deliverability. And we're going to get into a lot of jargon and a lot of things that we need to do to have great deliverability, which is critical for year end. But as we were talking as a group, we talked about the fact that you can have great deliverability and then tank it if you're not sending great content to the right people. So we can work with someone who has an 11% click-through rate. They change their content, their audience segmentation, and their click-through rate drops to below 3%. Now, that wasn't because they didn't have demarc in and they didn't have everything in alignment. It wasn't because of the tool they were using. It was because of messaging and segmentation. So bear with us as we go through very quickly some very nerdy things, and then we'll talk about what we need to do for year end in terms of content and messaging. Unless you like the nerdy things, and then we can talk as long as what you want.
Never, yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
All right. So yeah, I think the big thing is, as organizations, crafting the perfect message is, a lot of the battle. But if you can't get that message into inboxes, you're not going to see conversions. So what we need to keep an eye on is all of the stuff that is happening in the industry. A lot of it's fatigue-based. And so users are kind of in the position of power here. We need to respect things, but we also still need to be assertive, and we need to have that ask out. Inbox filtering, SMS fatigue, those are all things that are really hindering deliverability right now. We have messages getting routed into auxiliary inboxes that users don't even know exist. So when we start to see a decline in certain channels for fundraising, there's a lot here to unpack. It's not just about actual deliverability. This does trickle down into your actual revenue. So just a 1% drop in your inbox placement represents 3 to 5% in lost revenue, and that is across vertical, across client size. That's a pretty strong metric right there. Trust, loyalty, and experience are also all part of this deliverability equation. And so it's not just fundraising, it's not just marketing and communications. If you are sending out a message, it's your responsibility to have deliverability in mind. And so I think it's an important message to bring back to teams and start the conversation. Because it can't just be one person, one department worrying about this. The reputation does span really across the whole organization.
I think that's really important because we work a lot of times in silos, not just fundraising silos, but marketing silos. There's advocacy silos, and every time an email is sent from your domain, it is impacting deliverability. And I think I want to also go back to what Ryan said, is deliverability, again, isn't just making sure demarc equals reject. It's also making sure that you have trust and built trust in your email and SMS program. I think that's really critical, and we're going to get to that. So let's keep going.
So yes, some changes to date. I think every year is a new kind of pain for the deliverability space. It all really started with the Apple Mail privacy protection. This is where we saw open rates kind of become irrelevant, or at least wildly inflated and not something I report on anymore. Then we saw 10DLC, which then trickled down into some additional authentication from Google and Yahoo. And now we have kind of a lot of AI filtering coming out from different providers, but most notably Apple. We're seeing a lot of filtering happening both at the email level and the SMS level, which will really be impacting your peer-to-peer and your short code SMSs, depending on how your organizations are deploying. So yes, this is just a little bit about some of the KPIs that are changing. It might be worth looking at some reports and saying, we've been reporting on opens as a really big indicator. Maybe that's not the best thing to do. Maybe we need to be looking at different forms of engagement, or reworking how we're framing some of these KPIs. They kind of live in reports, and sometimes they live in there for a very long time before they're noticed. The other really big thing down at the bottom of the new section is those intent segments. Finding a system that works for flagging and tagging your different segments is going to be a game changer, because when you take user intent and apply that to your message and to the outgoing messages that you're sending, you're going to see a lot of better received messages, better fundraising results, better deliverability all around.
Okay, so we're going to get through quickly technical compliance, and Ian does a lot for you, but there's a couple things Ian doesn't do, so we want to just make sure everyone knows what you guys all need to do. And then engagement strategy and building that trust. And then, of course, cross-channel consistency. That has just come out as one of the biggest challenges, actually, in the retail space, that they're having consumers are having less trust in brands because there's no cross-channel consistency. So Kantar just reported on that. I don't know why it was like a woohoo, big finding, but their trust in brands is falling along with trust in everything. And one of the biggest reasons is because of cross-channel consistency or lack thereof.
And you can see that, commercially, when you get your text message about black shoes being on sale, and then the same brand 15 minutes later is emailing you about a new shirt, right? That creates a really big disconnect. And so as organizations and as fundraisers, if you're running a 5x match on email, you should probably present the same match in SMS or give a reason why you're not, right? Sometimes we will have a 3x match in email, but a special 5x on SMS. Let them know, because that disconnect is something that can be identified really easily.
And definitely it happens through direct mail. We all know that. If any of you here are integrated, it's really hard to get that consistency, which is why you need to have either a single partner or all your partners at the table when you're planning year end. Yep. How are we going to frame matches, goals, to-goes? It gets really complicated really fast. So segmentation, communication, let's keep going because we're running out of time. Yep. I can take technical foundations. So EN does handle SPF and DKIM. It is on you all to set up DMARC. So recommend you set up DMARC. If you don't have it set up now, start with DMARC, and then there's P equals none, and get that going. It is absolutely needed for authentication. And once you have that moving and you can get, it's all about reporting, DMARC into quarantine and ultimately reject, you can then add BEAMI. And BEAMI is where you get the trust verified checkmark in Gmail or your logo showing up. And that is crucial, not because of deliverability, but because of trust. Next is please monitor your reputation, monitor your sender reports constantly. Now is the time to put in a dashboard where you can see how your sender score is, what your spam complaints are, because remember, Gmail's gonna kick you out if it's 3% or more. They're done. So start monitoring that. Also, know if you're on a dedicated or shared IP, right? Because there's different tactics there. Work on engagement-based segmentation. What we would be doing right now is trying to get as many people starting to get engaged with low-level engagement opportunities. Heifer just sent out a great email, which is just, hey, are you still living in Swarthmore, PA? Click here and get like a pumpkin stencil or something. It was literally just to start to get their engagement up and going, right? And so start that at your 0 to 30-day engagers, and then your 31 to 60-day engagers, and keep going until you are, still in the green, basically, and get your engagement going. This is critical before year end, because at year end, I'm probably jumping ahead, but at year end, we tend to want to go out to the full list, but that's actually probably one of the worst times because you're sending so much and it's going to kill the rest of year end's deliverability. Make sure you're sending to engaged people. 10 DLC is now a requirement. If people tell you otherwise, that is not true. It is a requirement now. Ryan can get your 10 DLC done in 24 hours if you need a 10 DLC. And make sure you have a universal unsubscribe. It has to be a one opt-out, and then you can move them to a preference center.
So yeah, really quickly, just like Jess mentioned, we're gonna prioritize engagement. Now is the time to be doing that. Treat some of these channels as relationship builders, right? We've sometimes lost who we're talking to, and these are people who really care about your organization. They care about your mission. Sometimes it's nice to just ask them how they're doing, or share an image if you have a lot of images. Any kind of engagement layered in on SMS is really, really helpful there. Be proactive with who you're removing. Like Jess said, we want to be mailing or emailing out, 0 to 36 months. It's probably not. You should scale it back to 18 months or even 12, just to save some of that deliverability. Think about resting, especially as we look at another Giving Tuesday in December. The back-to-back movement from Giving Tuesday right into year end is pretty tricky. Try to give the file, a week off if you can. That's ideal. But yes, definitely do that. Keep your reporting, start reporting, and maybe find some opportunities where you can cut folks out. Less volume does equal more trust, and it just creates a better relationship between you and the donor.
Remember, you can always ask people to pause their email so you can pull people out, right? It's just, inbox deliverability is not the same as postal deliverability, although that's going down too. So.
Right.
So what can you do in the next 75 days? DMARC. Make sure you have your DMARC get up. Watch the reporting. Segment, I talked about segmenting by clicks. We talked about 10 DLC. We talked about BME. Also, add your full address to your footer because they're looking for that. And if you can add a brief mission statement, because what Gmail and the other folks are doing is they're scanning your emails to make sure you're trusted and verified. And that is just like, it just helps, right? So they see you have a real address and they see a little bit about what you do and they say, okay, you're good. All right, moving on.
Alignment, yep. So what's coming up for the year end and for next year? The Apple rollout is going to be big. I'm sure if you're on any commercial list, you've gotten at least a few text messages asking that you add this number to your contacts. Start rolling those out. If you can do it before Giving Tuesday and year end, that's a great thing to do. What that will do is if that number is in a user's contacts, the text will get delivered and it will get delivered to the main inbox. If you don't have them added to your contacts, you may start to see messages going into the other folder on your iMessage clients. So definitely want to make sure you're getting people to add your number to their contact list so it can get delivered. Gmail is toying around with donation intent sorting into an additional mailbox. So this is like the promotions tab, the social tab. This would be another tab. And decentralized inboxes. Folks are using different clients that are not the native Gmail or the native Outlook app. And so there are other ways that these providers are sorting and flagging. So just keeping in mind, if somebody's using a Spark or a Superhuman, the message that we are sending and some of the sorting that we're talking about for Gmail and Yahoo, these other smaller clients do have similar things to think about. Deliverability audit. I think the biggest thing to do if you're new to deliverability is think through an audit and do it monthly. Report on it frequently and keep track of your progress or areas where things are slipping. Not every organization is going to have an audit that has 70 points. Sometimes the most critical 10 will really keep you aligned with where you're going. But the things that we've talked about frequently, DMARC, DChem, sender score, all of that should be monitored frequently. And if you need any ideas for what to add to your audit, we've got many. So feel free to find it.
So there's lots of slides behind here that talk about a deliverability audit.
Yeah.
Clean your list, right? Clean your list regularly. I don't know why people aren't doing this on a regular basis, right? We clean postal lists every single time we put something in the mail. We should be cleaning email lists just, as regularly. That's number one. Make sure your links are white labeled. EN does allow you to do this. You just have to do it yourself. Make sure, again, DMARC is set up. Don't send single image emails. Terrible for deliverability.
Right.
Warm your list up now. Trying to think what else we talked about. We could go on forever because we like deliverability and we do it so much. But there is a huge deliverability audit in here, but we know we're out of time, so we won't go through the steps with you.
But yes, any questions on kind of what you're seeing or what challenges you're facing?
We have a lot of questions coming in for the audience, so thank you. And thank you to you both for bringing this complex topic to discussion here. So first question coming in is, what are the trust scores and how do you determine them in terms of KPIs?
So that's going to be your sender score. When you are setting up your feedback loops, you're going to be able to see what your sender score is depending on which deliverability platform you're looking at. Typically, they range 1 to 100, and you want to be 90 or above for those.
Great. And then going back to big picture here is, how do you easily communicate what deliverability is to stakeholders who don't understand it?
I would just, I would put it in terms of revenue. That our emails are not getting into our constituents' inboxes and we're losing money. It is really difficult. I work with a client who has had to deliver this message again and again to leadership, and we've literally pared it down to our emails are not reaching our donors. We have lost X amount of money in the last year because of it, because they have seen their email revenue decline. This client, actually, their email revenues declined so much that their SMS often outraises what their email does. So I know you're like, that is the simplest message, but it is the only message. Don't get into DMARC. Don't get into all of that. Just tell them that you are losing money, and it is like the post office not delivering your mail. Sometimes we have to bring it all the way back. It is literally like the postal carrier throwing your mail away. It's not reaching your inbox.
That's a really great way to bring that home. I really love that. I will be stealing that. Thank you. I think, too, for the longest time, marketers, part of their KPIs was how many people were on their lists. So if that is what they're aiming for, they don't want to delete people. But now with this shift, I think this will be a good thing. And also leads into our next question. What is your process for cleaning lists?
So we have several partners that actually will clean lists in order to get out spam traps, bots. You can go on because you're the.
Spam traps, bots, misspelled email addresses. If somebody's typed in a .con instead of .com, you will ultimately get dinged for that. So what this process is you can upload a flat file or create an API. They will then verify that the email address is good and receiving email and is safely under human ownership. Sometimes with spam traps, email addresses that were valid are then taken over and are used as spam traps. So you want to get them off of your file as quickly as possible. At bare minimum, you should be sending your list out to be cleaned at least twice a year, preferably quarterly or more if you can handle that. If you are a part of any kind of co-op or you're receiving email addresses from other sources, typically those have been cleaned on the front end. Just make sure that's happened, and then monitor that cohort, because for some of the intent segmentation, they might not be long for, depending on the work that you're doing.
Great. And then also going off that, how long do you recommend keeping new to file people on your list if they are not clicking?
60 days. Truly. But, don't just ask them, give them things to do, give them engagement and stewardship. But if you have a lot of if you're getting a lot of new to file people, and they're not engaging in another thing after, 60 days, you could even bring it back to 30, they're not worth it.
The one exception I will say is if they've come in on a specific campaign that is yearly, it's worth asking them again on that campaign if you do that kind of year over year. So if they came in on a special giving day, or if they came in on this very specific event for this very specific topic, ask them again at that point. But typically, if they're not engaging with the overall mission, you can cut them loose.
That's fair. Okay, and do you recommend any email deliverability tools? We use Send Forensics, but it's expensive.
I've never heard of that one. Have you?
Senfos, we know. So we work with Everest, which is commercial, and then for list cleaning, you can really go out to many vendors there. On the front side, you can also do some email on acid just to make sure that you're rendering correctly, and all of your alt tags are in, because that will impact deliverability as well. It's a whole pre-flight thing that you can add to your regiment.
Great. Thank you. And just to add to that, if you want to reach out to your account success manager and talk email deliverability, they would love to chat about that with you, as well as bring in Gwyn, who is our DevOps individual on our team who really does a great job with that and can help lead you in the direction of options there. So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a really great topic, and there have been a few questions unanswered, so we'll make sure to get answers to you. And like I mentioned, feel free to reach out to your account success manager.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.